What is up, guys? It is that guy with a pencil here, and we are here to make a nice and juicy tier list on the 7 deadly sins. Yes, I'm starting out with a banger, dog. I do want to do a lot more 7 deadly sins tier lists. We're going to be talking about this. This is purely character wise. This isn't going to be power scaling. That may be another video for another time, especially once the series is over, because things are kind of going nuts in Taizai right now. And speaking of Taizai right now, spoilers for everything. If you're just clicking on this video because you saw a tier list and you're just like, oh, this is it, it's on the 7 deadly sins, basically will only cover the anime. This will not just cover the anime, this will cover the manga. I'm going to spoil everything. It's probably going to be a really long video. I have no idea how long this video actually is going to be, but it's going to be probably pretty long because I'm going to talk in depth about why each sin is where they are. So let's get into it. All right. So I might as well just start off with the lowest tier. And yep. Merlin, it's a good thing you're cut off because you really are a disappointment. And here's the thing. Despite Merlin being at the bottom, the lowest of the low for me in terms of like the 7 deadly sins team, I still think Merlin is a pretty good character. In fact, I think she's a great character. Just in comparison to her competition, I don't think she really ranks up that high, at least for me. And let me go into why. If 7 deadly sins had ended at chapter, what was it, like 320 something, when the Demon King was truly defeated and Zeldris was saved and everything was right there, then we'd be perfectly fine. I think Merlin would definitely be, she probably wouldn't be in disappointment. She'd be in okay. And the reason why Merlin has dropped so far in a disappointment is because Merlin is a gluttonous character, but she's gluttonous for knowledge. And here's the thing about working a character like that, because I've seen this character before, and I feel like I've talked about this in my review series. I've seen a character like Merlin before in Xehanort. And what I love so much about Xehanort is when he was first introduced, he just wanted to start the Keyblade War, reforge the Keyblade, just to see what happened. He didn't really have a deep, complex motive. He just wanted to see what happened. He was a scientist. And that was honestly, maybe this is just me, that was amazing for me. Like, I love the idea of just a person who doesn't really care about the moral implications of their actions. They kind of just want to vibe and figure out the world around them. I find that amazing. And in Kingdom Hearts 3, spoilers for that too. I know this is a 7 deadly sins video. Why am I spoiling Kingdom Hearts 3? The retroactive purpose they gave towards Xehanort, while I don't like it as much as I do the idea of Xehanort kind of just doing it for the lulz because he wants to, the fact that he wanted to recreate the world so everything was balanced again, I really like the concept of balance, and I like the way Xehanort was going to do it, because the way the Guardians of Light were going to do it, and have been doing it, is they just went out and did it themselves, world by world. They'd go out and fix the problems, send the darkness back to the Dark Realm, slay Heartless, defeat the Nobodies, yada yada yada. I found that great. I liked how it was Xehanort trying to do it all himself. There, he literally used 13 different versions of himself, just spreading his heart all around because he thought he could only do it himself, versus the teamwork aspect in Kingdom Hearts. And that's, while I don't prefer Kingdom Hearts 3 Xehanort's motivation as to pre-Kingdom Hearts 3 Xehanort's motivation of just wanting to do it, it's perfectly fine. Cutting back to Merlin. Merlin has at least at first, has the exact same reasoning. She does everything she does, no matter how heinous or how strange or how off-putting, for the sake of knowledge. She just wants to see what to do. And I'm perfectly fine with that. I actually really like that motivation, like I just outlined. However, when we find out what happened with the Lady of the Lake, and she explains the whole reason Merlin has gone so far to do something that is actually insane, which is resurrecting Chaos. And Chaos, the universal being that created the Taizai verse, created the Supreme Deity and Demon King, created all the races, all that stuff, reviving that power, which was sealed away by the two previous gods of the verse, which are the Demon King, the Supreme Deity. The whole reason she did that was not because she wanted the power for herself, which would have been a cool motivation. I would love to see what Merlin would have done with the power of chaos, or because she just wanted to see what knowledge chaos had, you know, the primordial being, the first thing that was ever alive. You can't really get much more knowledge than that unless you go back before time itself. That would have been perfectly fine for me, but no, the whole reason Merlin did something so risky and so dangerous and honestly pretty darn stupid was because of unrequited love from this guy right here, Meliodas. And the thing that bothers me so much about that is because he should not be the linchpin. What I liked about Merlin and what I liked about Xigbar, another spoiler thing, is that, like, if Meliodas is Xehanort, Merlin was Xigbar. In the sense that Meliodas and Xehanort had their own big master plans. They had things that they planned to do. Meliodas was to break the curse on him and Elizabeth, and Merlin and Xehanort's was to restore balance, I guess. I guess that's his retroactive internal motivation. But Braig, as he's revealed, or Luxu, as he's revealed to be at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3, actually has his own plans, and they're interesting because he traces back way back when, even before knowing more than Xehanort does, and Xehanort was previously like the all-knowing character, just like Meliodas was. However, while Braig slash Xehanort, Braig slash Xigbar slash Luxu slash whatever has his own interesting motivations that can lead to an entirely new developing story that's really interesting to follow, Merlin did something so stupid, so risky, so dangerous as releasing the demon, as almost letting Elizabeth die, betraying the person she loved in the first place, and releasing a being that has the possibility to destroy all of creation just because some unrequited love from Meliodas. Now, I know some people may think like, oh, well, that's not that bad, worse than motivation. Yes, it is a horrible motivation because of the cost. Like, my thing with Merlin is that it's not logical what she did. And Merlin always seemed like the person who would do whatever for the logic. Like, Merlin and Meliodas both seemed like characters that plotted everything out. They knew what plot beat they were going to hit because it would make sense, no matter how many lives it would cost, no matter what it would take, no matter what the risk was, the benefit outweighed it. But the benefit of releasing chaos, as we're currently seeing with Kath, who's popped out, chopped off a bit of Arthur, and now is a multi-galaxy threat that can reality warp and send people through timelines and stuff like that, it obviously wasn't worth it. And it's now, with the introduction of Kath, and Kath being a being that apparently has always been around, that the Lady of Lake knew about, and Merlin didn't know about, it makes Merlin look dumb. Like, Merlin didn't think this all the way through, and that's horrible. Like, Meliodas, with his plan, he thought everything through. He went through 107 Elizabeths just to finally break the curse on him and Elizabeth. He planned everything out that was clear, cut, and simple. While Merlin kind of just did it for the lulz. And that just, it's stupid to me. I don't like it. I don't like, now that the 7 deadly sins, or the, I guess like the 6 deadly sins, only purpose is just to guard Merlin for a stupid mistake she made. Like, Meliodas is even just calling it stupid. He's not saying like it was whatever decision you made, yada yada, we're fine with it. Nah, releasing chaos was a stupid decision, hands down. And I don't disagree with Meliodas. I don't disagree with anyone. Like, Gowther tries to bring up the point for Merlin, like, oh, Merlin let all our wishes get granted before she tried to grant hers. But here's the thing, all the other sins' wishes, Escanor's wish was just to be accepted and loved by a family. He got that. That didn't come to the detriment of anyone. It only came to the benefit of multiple people. Meliodas' wish, that happened to not only overthrow the oppression of the Demon King and the Supreme Deity and end the Holy War, which was costing people thousands upon thousands of lives across multiple generations, but it also just made him and Elizabeth happy. That makes them better. Gowther's motivation was also just to figure out what it meant to be human, to have a heart, and to learn what that was. And once he got that, that was just a net benefit. Diane's motivation was just to find people she cared about, someone she could love, and she got that with King, and that, once again, just made everything better. Bond's motivation was, once again, just to kind of find love and live and be happy and find some purpose in life after struggling so much as a child. And that just makes net benefit for him and Elaine, makes him happy. That's perfectly fine. Same with King. He kind of just wanted to have he was a greedy king, but in the best way possible, where he kind of just wanted everyone to be happy and he wanted everyone to succeed and prosper. All their wishes were for a net benefit that proposed little or no risk to the world around them. And if anything, like with the case of Meliodas, made the world even better. Well, Merlin's wish is massively destructive, extremely dangerous, and is proving to be very dangerous. Now, I know what people are going to argue. Well, it's 7 deadly sins. It's Kath is going to be beaten, yada yada yada. King Arthur is going to be a fantastic king, blah 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 blah. But before I even bother addressing that point, let me talk about what Merlin is implied to have done. So she took Arthur, manipulated him, raised him as her own, also just he could be a vessel for something she was interested to study. Arthur had no say in the matter. He had no idea about what chaos was or who's going to be possessed by it. He has no one to train him in the power. Arthur just became a vessel. And the whole reason Arthur isn't complaining about it is because he's just a nice guy. Well, in all actuality, he was used and kind of abused. Merlin kind of just let him die. And was perfectly fine with it for the most part, because she was just like, oh, whatever, he can still be used as a vessel. And she used him as a vessel. That's all he is. Merlin's not a good person, and Merlin's not a good character because her motivations don't line up. I just don't like Merlin all around now. Even if you don't want to say she's evil and she betrayed the sins and stuff like that, for using them so explicitly, then that's perfectly fine. She's just a bad person, and not a good bad person. Like, Merlin isn't an entertaining villain to watch. Villain Merlin I'd be way more intrigued with villain Merlin. But this Merlin that tries to have it both ways, this Merlin that's an abusive person that ends up manipulating her friends and technical family, and going on to manipulate countless lines of humans that ended up possessing Excalibur and going on for so on and so forth, all to do this just to get her own personal selfish goal that's ending up being a detriment to everybody. It just doesn't work out. It doesn't work out at all, and I'm disgusted with Merlin. I really don't like Merlin as a character, and she's just a disappointment for all the hype that Merlin had. Like, admittedly, like I said towards the beginning of this entire Merlin discussion, when I was first introduced to Merlin, it was interesting because she was just a hooded figure. She started bodying the previous highest mage we'd ever seen. That was really cool. Merlin showed and instantly dispelled Perfect Cube. That was really cool. Merlin came back against Grey Road, slapped Grey Road. That was really cool. Merlin having infinite magic. That's an amazing concept that I wasn't even ready for. Amazingly cool. The fact that she tricked the supreme deity in the Demon King. That's extremely cool. All the things Merlin did are amazing, but when you quantify to why, and you quantify the effects of what she's done and why she's done it, it sucks. Like, she's just a disappointment. And like I said, Merlin by all means is still a good character. Like, I still think the writing that went into Merlin was very, very good. However, compared to the rest of her comrades, and especially in the series such as 7 Deadly Sins, that's so focused on like the inner workings and like interpersonal relationships between characters, I don't like where Nakaba took Merlin and what Merlin is now. So Merlin, you are a disappointment. I may come back to Merlin and talk about her a little bit more, but I gotta move on. I've been talking about Merlin for way too much. I think I'm just gonna work my way up the list. Diane's and why. And the whole reason I say why is, why was this character limited to usage for other characters? And you may be wondering what I mean by that. And it's kind of simple. Diane doesn't really develop. If you notice that, Diane doesn't necessarily have a track course of development. She kind of stays static, and she's more so used by other characters, King and Gowther especially, to promote their own internal development. And that's really, I don't want to say sad. Yeah, it's actually kind of sad, because like, I kind of wish we could get something more out of Diane, because I feel like she had such great potential. And like, tagging off of what I was talking about Merlin. Merlin did a bunch of cool things. like cool things in context of the series. Merlin was really, really cool. But Diane, what has Diane done except really get slapped? Like you do have some moments for Diane. Like she boxed with Meliodas in the Vyzal fighting arc. She made help him run with Mother Catastrophe. She separated the Demon King from the lake, and I think that's really it. Are you missing something about Diane? That's the thing. Diane has done nothing very cool. Her personality isn't all that. She's a nice person. That's great. She's a nice person that loves and supports her friends. That's cool. She fought Gowther, but like even then, that fight was mainly just for Gowther's development, and Diane doesn't really develop her motivations. That's the thing. I'm finding it hard to even outline Diane's motivations. Was it just to, kind of just to be happy and exist, and like the fact that she loved Meliodas for so long, only to figure out that she loved King? That's development, but like, you may not be able to tell, but like unless it's done very, very specifically well, like in the case of Meliodas, loved characters solely based around the ideal of love and supporting someone else and stuff like that. They don't really do it for me personally. However, I can understand why people may like that and people may rank Diane higher. But for what she's done in the series, feat-wise and just action-wise, I don't find Diane that interesting or cool. She doesn't have any I have infinite magic. She doesn't have I slap 4 commandment my L. She doesn't have I box 1-on-1 with the Demon King. She doesn't have I'm the reason the Demon King even died. She doesn't have I'm the main character, one of the true main characters, and she doesn't have anything that Escanor has. I slap commandments, I slap everything, I slap the Demon King. She doesn't do any of that. So Diane is more so a why. I wish there was something more done with Diane, to say the least, because it's like I could talk for hours, most likely, on every single one of these characters. Even Merlin. I don't like Merlin now, but every single one of these characters I can talk about for hours. But Diane, I'd hit a wall. Like, I don't have much to talk about. I can't say, yo, you remember how cool it was when Diane what? Like, I do. You know how cool it was when Diane separated Demon King from the lake? That was so cool. But then Escanor did something cooler. He boxed the Demon. I can't talk about Diane extensively. And that saddens me. She's in Y just because, like, I feel like more could have been done with Diane rather than her just being an excuse to develop other characters. That's really it. Like, I don't have much to say about Diane. It's sad, but it's true. Gowther? Gowther's okay. And the reason why Gowther's okay and not in, like, great perfection divinity, I think Gowther has a great arc. I really, really do. But I think what makes Gowther hit different, at least for me, is his arc is his arc is very external, and he does negative things to other characters in order to make himself develop. And sometimes that can work, but for me, it's really a coin toss with Gowther. Like, I like where Gowther's ended up. He's found his family. He's found his heart. He understands why he fights now. I like where Gowther is. I even kind of like where Gowther began, this soulless, emotionless doll looking for answers for something, because he's just, once again, he kind of pulled the Merlin Songe Xehanort. He's a scientist. He wanted to figure out what he was. He's very by the numbers, book by book in the beginning. And I like it. It's good. I think the way he wipes Diane's memories only to get proved wrong by Diane getting her memories back. But here's the thing, Diane didn't even get her memories back on her own. It took her traveling to the past in Droll's body to get her memories back. And technically, no, Gowther was still proven wrong because Diane made the golems of her friends. But still, Gowther's okay, because the way his arc concludes, like, he finally comes back around, he reawakens to his old power, because he's finally accepted the fact that Nadia is a part of his heart. He can't shun it anymore. He's awoken. Everything's come back to Gowther. Yeah, he's okay. Like, maybe I'm gonna come back to Gowther because I feel like I can talk more about Gowther. But right now, I'm really hitting a blank, and I really want to talk about other characters right now, because Gowther's literally in the middle for me when it comes to the Sins. Like, he's not middle, but like in terms of actuality, like, Gowther is definitely a mid for me. And I'll come back to that. And for Gowther's like feats and stuff in the series, like, he has cool fights. I love his light arrows and all that stuff, all the stuff he does with mental hacks and stuff like that. I find it all cool. I don't know. Now I need to think on Gowther, right? Because who I really wanted to get to talking about is Ban. Now, Ban's only in great. He's not in perfection or divinity, because of the dead weight that I like to call Elaine. Now, I know Elaine is the love of Ban's life, and it's the first person to truly make him feel something and stay there consistently to his death. And I know Ban is great character-wise. I love Ban. But the lengths that he goes for this woman, who has been dead and was revived, and yada yada yada, and yada yada yada, all the things Ban does for Elaine, and all the fact that everything wraps around Elaine, it's sad. Like, I feel like, spoilers for Hunter x Hunter. So if you remember Hunter x Hunter, the Chimera Ants arc, it was Komugi that made Meruem truly develop into a human. And the reason that arc was so great was because it was a natural love just built out of something that was there that Meruem had never just ever really seen before. Meruem really didn't have anyone else he could communicate with as an equal, and anyone else he really could have, someone like Netero, just kind of wanted to kill him. While Komugi was just the blind girl that was really good at Gungi. They could compete with that. They both bonded over that. And that was really, really good for Meruem, because he never had anything like that before. It's not like Meruem had other options, because it was in his nature to kill and move on and become king of the world. And that's all fine and good for Meruem, and that's great. Yeah, I don't know. With Ban, I feel like Nakaba had an interesting idea. And here's the thing. Ban's all the way up and great. It's just Elaine holding him back, and it's really that, because if you'll notice, Ban was fake happy. Ban was working through his depression the entire time. He thought the 7 deadly sins was the answer, only to find out that wasn't the answer. Then he thought all the pain of being locked up in isolation so long was the answer. That's where we found him when 7 deadly sins really began. When we encountered Ban, he was in prison suffering, because he was just like, well, I feel nothing. Hopefully pain will take all the mental pain away. But it didn't. And what Ban learns throughout the series is that, no, you can't just keep repressing it. You have to work out that pain. And when he tries to kill Meliodas, because the Divine Horn tells him that will get him Elaine back, and then when he realizes just how far he's fallen, the fact that he was about to, ready and willing to kill his best friend, the man who really gave him a home and like a brotherhood after his loss of Elaine. Like, he breaks after that. Like, he goes off on his own. King follows him, and so does Jericho. But he goes off on his own because this is how he feels. He feels horrible. He feels disgusted with himself. He feels like he can't stand in the presence of Meliodas. He can't be praised as a hero, because what kind of hero would try to kill his own best friend? And that arc is amazing for Ban. And then when Elaine gets revived, I don't necessarily mind it, because it ties into the plot, the Melascula plot. And I like how Ban was able to just live through it. He was able to bring Elaine back to her senses, and then he was about to suffer and losing her all over again. And what gets me really about Bond. See, now the more I'm talking about him. Okay. In good conscience, I can't put Bond in great. Yeah, Bond. It's just that. I think it's just that I don't like the lengths he went through for Elaine, but I'm going to continue talking about Bond. The reason now he's in perfection, now that I've revised myself, he's not in great. Yes, he's a whole, like, empty tier above Gothar and Diane, especially above Merlin. Is because he goes through all that. He's about to lose Elaine again. And then, when you think Bond's finally come back around, he has Elaine back in a sense, and he's reconciled with Meliodas in a sense, but then he insults Meliodas about, like, oh, what do you know? I'm about to lose the love of my life twice. You would never know how that feels. And then the bomb drops about Meliodas, his true past and his love story with Elaine. And Bond just feels horrible. Because he realizes how wrong he was in the end. Bro, that's beautiful. Oh, it's the storytelling in that. And the way that guilt weighs on Bond's mind. That's like, wow. I like... The initial betrayal of Meliodas was the physical betrayal. He was trying to kill him to get what he wanted. That's what Bond initially did. But then, instead of being there for Meliodas in his time of need, like Meliodas was for him in all Bond's times of need, Bond just hits him again with that emotional gut punch. And Meliodas, who, like I said, has been through 107 Elizabeths, growing alongside her, falling in love with her again, only to lose her all over again 107 times. And Bond just feels so guilty about that too, and it's great. And he just goes through again and again and again, and he's talking with him. He's talking with Elaine. He's talking with himself about how terrible he feels. And then when he goes to Meliodas' aid, like I kind of leaped ahead a little bit, but I'm gonna jump back. When he goes to Meliodas' aid, when Meliodas is getting ganged by the Ten Commandments, and like just being completely outmatched, Estarossa came in, stopped Meliodas, and was about to kill him. When Bond came in and was ready to say goodbye to Elaine, because he had to save the man that saved him. Bro, you want to talk about beautiful storytelling, and what makes that even better is that he could do nothing. Bond had to sit there and watch. He tried everything. He used Hunter's Festival on some of, at that point, the strongest characters we had ever seen in the verse. He stole strength from Droll, Zeldris, maybe not Zeldris because Demon King's power, but Estarossa, all these people, he stole strength from. He buffed up massively, but he could do nothing but watch and cry and scream as Estarossa murdered Meliodas in cold blood. Bro. And then he just has to suffer and live with that. He's literally turned to paste after that. He's blown apart by Estarossa. He comes back after that, and he's just kind of stuck there. Once Estarossa pops up again at the castle, Bond can't do anything. He's kind of just there until Escanor arrives. And this is where we get into Bond being useless. And this part of Bond's character honestly makes Bond even better. And it's crazy to think about. But the fact that Bond was struggling so much with the fact that he was immortal. Like, you couldn't kill Bond. Like some people with the Purgatory Flame could, but not every common everyday person could just run up and defeat Bond. But as Chandler says himself, you're immortal. Bond's like, yeah, what about it? And Chandler responds with, yeah, what about it? And tears him to pieces. Because Bond became useless. And like, Bond became the meme. Bond was the weakest sin forever. Everyone else was getting power-ups, getting facts revealed about them. You had Gothar getting his original magic back. You had Merlin revealing the fact she had influent magic and slapping Grey Road. You had Diane getting her training from Droll. You had King getting his training from Gloxinia. You had Meliodas just coming back with the druid power and then getting resurrected, getting even stronger. You had Escanor being Escanor. And you just had Bond. It was kind of just this human guy that was, yeah, he was immortal, but he couldn't really do anything else. And then he realized when he finally gets this chance and he hears about why Meliodas has suddenly turned on them, it's because his emotions were hijacked by the Demon King, and that isn't Meliodas. But he can go into Purgatory. He's the only one, since he's immortal, to go into purgatory, which is a land of absolute suffering. Merlin describes it as horrible. Her father went in for about 2 seconds and came out just disfigured, old, torn apart because the environment was so terrible and anti-life. But Bond, he was willing to go in. He left, once again, he left Elaine. I'm not exactly sure, but I'm pretty sure Elaine wasn't even in a good state when Bond left. But for his friend, once again, to make up for the emotional guilt that he knew he caused Meliodas by bringing up the fact that, Meliodas couldn't possibly understand what it's like to lose Elaine again. He goes through all of that. Centuries, if not millennia of suffering and purgatory, looking for his best friend. And he finds him. He keeps bringing himself back too. Bond falls a lot in purgatory. He even fell to the darkness of the world. He became one of those wraith things where he was just a fox demon wandering around and fighting things. And he ran into Meliodas that way. He was just fighting this little dragon. But then Bond pulled himself back together. He beat the dragon. He brought Meliodas out. And they just traveled together. It was the Bond and Meliodas times. And honestly, I could probably read a whole series of just these two idiots in purgatory, and it'd be great because their relationship is just so strong, built off so many interconnected factors, and Bond's development to growing to understand Meliodas and realizing that, yeah, Bond, he's kind of a youngin'. Even compared to Escanor, Bond's a youngin'. He doesn't really know much, and the fact that he grows and goes through so much in purgatory, all for his best friends, and the fact that Bond learned not to steal anymore, but to give. To give to others, bro. The fact that all that fighting with the Demon King, 60 years of fighting the Demon King, and he finally learned how to just give away his energy, and that was how they were beating down the Demon King. The way that Bond goes further on to use that to revive Elaine, to make himself mortal again. And I'm going to say all positive. And he does all this felony growth. He comes back from purgatory. He saves Elaine's life. He comes in and he honestly performs not only one of the best feats, one of the coolest feats in the series, when he comes back and does what not a tired full wings king, not an afternoon sunshine Mael, not a astral body Ludishel, not what any of the remaining seven deadly sins could do. He boxed the Demon King 1-on-1. Bond did that. Meliodas was on the inside helping him and weakening the Demon King. Yes, but the fact that Bond was the only answer and he was mortal the entire time. Here's the thing. I'm 99.9% sure an immortal Bond would have slapped the Demon King. That's the whole reason that Nakaba took that immortality away from him. Because there's no doubt in my mind. Because the Demon King wouldn't have been able to stop him. Immortal Bond post Purgatory is one of the strongest characters in the series. Because there is very little you can do to put him down. With all the built up resistances he has, all the strength he's acquired, Purgatory, I keep calling it this. And whenever I'm talking about Taizai the versus Battle Sense, Purgatory was basically Bond's hyperbolic time chamber. He went in there and he came out way ludicrously stronger. So yeah, Bond, a madman in terms of power, and then he just goes on further, he fights alongside. It's just that Bond's character arc is so quality. He has to be in perfection. That's just the thing. Oh, his feats are cool. Every time Bond reveals a new ability, it's cool. And even Bond against Endura, when he got Corachus, I wish Corachus was introduced sooner though, because using just against the Endura spawn was but the way he stands alongside his friends in the final battle with the Demon King, and the way he's going to stand alongside them again in the battle with Kath. Great. Bond, all around, great. 12 out of 10 character. He's perfection. Now let's see if I can talk myself up with this boy right here. Okay. So King right now is in great, but Bond was also in great. I'm gonna spoil it because like I knew, like before I started recording this video, I knew exactly where everyone was going to go. But as I'm talking about them, they're probably gonna shift around a little bit. But to talk about King for the longest was my favorite character in Seven Deadly Sins. He really was, and I think the reason why is that King kind of just felt so relatable. He was just a guy that wanted to do what he wanted whenever he wanted to do it. He was kind of chilling. He didn't want all the responsibility. He was just like, oh yeah, and everyone was just telling King like, bro, or Harlequin, you're the Fairy King, dog. You have rules to do, you have jobs to do. And like he did it, but then he didn't really care. He didn't want to interact with the humans. He just wanted to live and be on his own and enjoy life with his friends and just explore the world, figure stuff out. And the fact that he did this alongside really doing his Fairy King duty, like King was known to just slap armies of holy knights that came to invade the Fairy King's forest. King was just known to do that. He just slapped entire things while just enjoying himself. And I found that really, really cool. And what goes on for King is the fact that he finds out that all his friends were tricked by humans and had their wings cut off. Because he wasn't there, he wasn't paying attention, he wasn't doing his job, in quotation marks, everyone suffered for it. And the way he goes to find the human who did it, and he gets amnesia, and he goes back and he finds Diane, and King falls in love with Diane because Diane kind of, like I said, Diane's perfect for other characters' development. Diane is really King's responsibility on a smaller scale. King is the protector of the Fairy King's forest. That's what his job is. He is the king of the fairies. He has one purpose in life. Except Diane brought a new purpose in such a smaller, more concentrated way. King fell in love with Diane because Diane was just what he wanted, and something new, something free to express his life. Someone that wouldn't tell him, oh yeah, you're doing great, but you're not doing your job absolutely perfectly. You're not being a proper fairy king and stuff like that. No, Diane just let King be king, just a relaxed guy, and King fell in love with her for that. But then as his memory started to come back and he realized what his duty was, he couldn't mix the two together. He realized he thought, and that's the great thing. He believed the lie that he could not mix both things together. Then he had to pick one or the other, and that as the Fairy King, it was his responsibility to pick the Fairy King's forest and his people over that. So he wipes Diane's memory and leaves. But the great thing about that is King goes back only to find not that it's humans killing fairies, but a fairy killing humans, and the fairy that's killing humans is his best friend Helbram, who is broken mentally. Helbram is beyond reprieve. He has lost it. He's just lost it, and he needs to be stopped. And King, despite all the pain that it causes him, kills Helbram because he knows that it's just not enough. And despite doing the right thing and doing, honestly, everything he was supposed to do, he couldn't help it that he got blindsided by that human and ended up losing his memories for a while. But he had to go through the mental anguish of not only abandoning what he found was the love of his life and something that he enjoyed, someone he enjoyed being around, but then he had to go onwards to not only just abandon her, but then he was charged for the sin of sloth because he wasn't around for something that wasn't even his fault. The fact that that Helbram was going around killing humans and left the Fairy King's forest unguarded, that wasn't his fault, but he couldn't live with it. And that broke King mentally. He was just like, I'm a terrible king. I can't do anything right. And the way Meliodas comes in and just supports him, just like, no, you sound like a fine king. And I think you're great at whatever you're going to do. Meliodas, that was great. And the way he brings King that hope. And then we find out King was masquerading the entire time. Like he knew Diane. He knew and still loved Diane immensely, but he couldn't be Harlequin. He had to be king. So he adopted a human form for forever. And like everyone knew him as that. Ban only knew him as that. Gowther only knew him as that. Merlin probably only knew him as that. He adopted this human form, and that's all he was used to. Half because, it helped him fit in more, but also because he probably, this is definitely more headcanon-y, but he probably wanted to hide the truth from Diane because he didn't want anything to possibly spark up those memories and stuff like that. So he became a human for a while. He still lived by Diane, was going to protect her with his life. Like I said, Diane was kind of the Fairy King's forest centralized into one person that King realized he needed to protect, and he did with Diane all throughout the years. And then we get reintroduced to King. However, due to the time gap and due to misinformation, King believes that Ban is the one who destroyed the Fairy King's forest. However, it was a demon. He did not have the full story, and the way King just comes back for this revenge arc, the way he's just like, yeah, I'm gonna kill you right here and right now because you murdered my sister, you destroyed my home, and it's all your fault. And he tries to take all that blame off himself and put it on the Ban, only for Elaine to come out and break Ban free from his fossilization. It's just like, oh. And King's just so confused, like, wait, Elaine, why are you doing this? Isn't this the man who killed you? And then King truly understands. Once he learns the situation, he's finally able to see his sister, and he goes and helps and saves the Sins. And it's honestly, for that segment of the story, before we even knew all the backstory for King, that turnaround, despite being only a couple chapters long, was great. Because he went from just someone so focused on revenge through the misinformation he heard to making up for it by saving everyone. Saving the man that he thought killed his sister for the longest time, and going against everything he knew just to satisfy his sister. Because King is, yes, he is a greedy king, but he's a greedy king that serves who he cares for. And we go on to see this when he fights Helbram again. Well, no, he fights Helbram in the human form, the body that was the man that ended up killing all the fairies and taking their wings the first time, and that caused King almost basically some PTSD. King is honestly traumatized by looking at that, and is just like, wait, no, you can't be alive, you should be dead. And he goes through all that suffering, and honestly, he gets washed by Helbram because of it. Like, Helbram in no universe was ever beating King, really. That was never the case, even with all the amps that Helbram was getting. But all of that in comparison to King feeling all that mental struggle and anguish, only to figure out the truth that this was Helbram, a Helbram revived and twisted by the malice of Hendrickson, and he has to go through and kill his best friend again, all to save what his new duty is. His old duty was to protect the Fairy King's forest and to be a good friend to Helbram, but the only way he could be a good friend to Helbram now was to allow himself to truly give himself the chance to stop, accept the truth, and move on. Move on to Diane, move on to his new purpose, develop more, grow more as an individual. And he kills Helbram again, and it's a mercy kill, and it's so sad. But the way Helbram even thanks him for killing him, great all around. And King doesn't even stop there, because Helbram becomes part of King's helmet. They're always talking to one another now, and they're going on. And King is now thrust back into his old responsibility. he's being reminded he's the Fairy King. That's right. It's his job to protect his home. And then the Albion attacks. And the Albion is strong, just like in the case with Meliodas at Camelot. The Albion is the strongest thing they've seen in a while. The strongest thing that any of the Sins have really encountered. I'm pretty sure the Albion is even stronger than Isaraf, the Vampire King. So this was really a do or die situation for King. And King he snapped. He awoke. He was just like, yes, this is why I'm going to use my full power to protect my home. I'm going to do both. But he doesn't. If you'll notice, King will switch back and forth between his two needs. His need to protect the Fairy King's forest and his need to love Diane. He will keep flipping back and forth. And in the moment where he goes full power against the Albion, it's to protect the Fairy King's forest. He's doing that for the moment, despite all the trouble Gowther has caused him by making Diane lose her memories all over again. King is now focusing on his old protective goal to make everyone happy and to protect them in the Fairy King's forest. And he does that so well. It's one of the coolest moments of the entire series. He just powers up to full strength, destroys the Albion, and we move on. And then we get to King meeting up with Diane again. And he's trying to get her to remember everything, and none of it's working. But then when Diane's in danger, King snaps once again, and he's just like, no, I need to protect you. And he does. He goes full power and absolutely annihilates the Gerard copy that Gloxinia makes. He goes against the first Fairy King. Honestly, his ancestor and one of the most powerful beings that we had seen at the time. And he does all that just to protect her, just to show how much he cares for her. And then she does it in return by showing how powerful the King Golem is. And their romance dynamic is great. Yep, Diane's going up into okay. I just thought about that. But yeah, and then we move on, and King doesn't stop there in terms of development, because then he goes back into the past, and he's put into the same situation Gloxinia was put into, where he sees Gerarde, his sister. He's getting Elaine flashbacks. He's thinking that Ro has killed Gerarde. He's caused slaughter all over the Fairy King's forest, and right as he is about to go down the same road that Gloxinia did, that blind, agonizing rage that does nothing but consume him, he stops, shows his development. It's just like, everything's not what it seems upon first glance, so let me just calm down and take my time. However, Gloxinia didn't do that. Gloxinia didn't develop. Gloxinia killed Ro immediately and went down the war path until the time where he became a commandment. And that shows the true split between the two demon kings. Not the two demon kings, the two fairy kings. One grew while the other didn't. And it was so, I wasn't even expecting that, but that was so great for them to show. And that's what jolts King back to reality. And now what King's issue is no longer the struggle to use his true power, but it's a struggle to accept both his roles, not only as the strong fairy king, but Diane's best friend and significant other. Because Diane wakes up and is just like, oh, yep, I remember everything now, and kisses him. Because it's been a long time coming. And now that they're both together, in a sense, everything is just almost, dare I say, perfect. But it's not perfect, because King still hasn't finished doing all he needs to do. He hasn't come around fully to that true strong character yet. He hasn't fully accepted both roles, and he goes on to do some of the coolest things ever. He's bodying Albions left and right in the war. He's proving himself as one of the legendary 7 deadly sins, protecting the humans in the war with the demons and all that stuff. He's doing great. And then he runs into the wall that is the crazed commandment Mael. Someone else who almost reminds him of Gloxinia, because he's doing all these crazy things out of a misguided love. Just like King wiped Diane's memories out of a misguided love and a split sense of duty. And King Yeah, I can't. I just can't, bro. Man, this show's gonna look super weird. But then King goes on. He fights and he honestly loses. He loses horribly. Oh wait, I skipped over an entire part. King forgives Gother. Now, the reason that is so huge is because Gother caused so many problems. This doll right here caused so many problems for King, and rather than destroy Gother, which he easily could have, or let Gother wipe his memories all over again and then destroy him or do anything, King helped Gother rationalize himself. King helped Gother develop by telling him, nope, you can't run away from responsibility. All that pain may hurt, but you gotta do something with it. Oh, King, great. And then you go on even further. King versus Essarosa, or King versus Mayel, really. And everyone's losing. Like, King's wings aren't fully grown out, so he's not getting the full power. Diane, everyone's magic is shut down. Everyone's dying. Gother lost his hand. Everything's moving. All the archangels are dead except for Mayel, who's gotten all 4 commandments inside of him. He is 4 commandment Mayel, and he is washing everybody. But then King's like, no, I refuse to lose here. I won't let this happen anymore. And he awakens. He goes through his chrysalis. He finally shatters his shell and becomes the fairy king he was always meant to be. And he understands Mayel's pain. King just starts reading his thoughts. Easily. Just looking at Mayel, just like, yeah, I understand. Your heart is in so much pain, and I can't even imagine the struggle you're going through, but I have to stop you, and I'm gonna help you. And King slaps Mayel, 4 commandment Mayel, who was bodying everybody. One of the strongest characters we had seen. Just instantly slaps him with 4 spirit spears. And what happens? King puts his trust in Gother again after risking everything to save Gother from Mayel for wrong that Gother and Demon Gother had committed in the past. He goes through everything and trusts in Gother again to save Mayel rather than killing him, because Mayel was honestly at that point more of a liability than he was an asset. But King didn't care. King was going to wait and be patient and let Gother do his due. However, we continue on to... So King, basically, at this point, King has fully accepted one of his roles. He is the Fairy King. He has taken that up. It is part of his mantle now. He is truly the Fairy King Harlequin. However, what he is still not fully accepted is his relationship with Diane. He's happy, but he's in almost a honeymoon phase. He's not fully accepting it. He's not fully discussing it with himself. He's not moving on, taking those next big steps that man needs to take. But then the fight with the Demon King rolls around, and he professes his love to Diane. And that's where King picked up the 2 halves of his life and finally connected them. And I'm so glad that he did, because now it's just... King is a complete character, and it is beautiful just to watch his development. Like, once again, I still don't know how long this video is going to be, but no matter how long it is, I'm telling you, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know what? Yeah, I feel like, especially once the series ends, maybe Merlin will... All these things are probably gonna get an analysis video of me talking like this, because this is just me ranking them amongst themselves. So yeah, King and Bond, 2 beautiful characters. However, there's a tier known as Divinity for a reason. Now, Meliodas, the Dragon Sin. Meliodas, the first character we are introduced to. Honestly, bro, you want to talk about tragic? You want to talk about a truly tragic love story? Romeo and Juliet ain't got nothing on this. Bro, think of every sad love story ever. I don't know what you want, but nothing comes close to even touching the sad life of Meliodas. And the best thing about Meliodas is the fact that he doesn't let that weigh him down, and he raises up everyone else. He raises up Merlin, he raises up Diane, he raises up Gold, he raises up Bond, he raises up King, he raises up Escanor. So even, like, Meliodas is fantastic. Like, I know, oh, he's a pervert, but honestly, I know if you were to remove that one aspect from Meliodas' character, everyone else would respect Meliodas as much as I do. Because Meliodas is great all around. He's divinity in terms of character writing all around. And you want to talk about a character that does cool things? He's the main character. He's the secondary. He's the main character basically, and he does everything cool. He boxes one with the Demon King. He gets possessed by the Demon King. Slaps him. He's in purgatory with the Demon King. Slaps the Demon King. He comes back. First things first, he nearly annihilates Twigo. He does everything. He's a demon. He has all these cool transformations. I can't talk about Meliodas right now. I can't. So we'll go on for too long. And the same thing's going to happen with this boy right here, Escanor. Now, Escanor is my favorite character in Seven Deadly Sins. I'm saying it right here, right now. Escanor is my favorite. And if I had to say why, no, this is how you kill a character. This is how you do it. All other authors out there, all other creators of fiction, whether it's animated, written, drawn, this is how you introduce a character, make him beloved, and then you kill him. I can't even legitimately sit down and describe off script. Like, I actually need to sit down and like wonder and for hours and discuss Escanor, because he's not only cool, but he's sympathetic and he's empathetic, and you can understand where he comes from, and you can see everything he does, and you can be so happy for him whenever he succeeds, and you can laugh at all his arrogant lines. Escanor is everything wrapped into one. And he's so tragic. And, you know what? Escanor's getting his own video. He, like, out of all this, I was thinking of doing Meliodas first, but, like, in terms of a character analysis, Escanor's getting his own video because he's dead. So, unless we get some nonsense with Chaos reviving him or something like that, we aren't going to get any more of Escanor. Who knows what we're going to get more of Meliodas or any of the rest of the sins. But yeah, Escanor is getting his own video and why he's so fantastic. I know this video has gone on for super long. I can't even imagine. And if you've gotten this far in the video, what I want you to type down in the comment section, I want you to type praise the sun. Praise the sun down in the comments. If I will know you've gotten this far or have skipped to the end. If you type down praise the sun in the comments. So yeah, this is honestly my tier list. We got some gaps. We got Merlin all the way down in disappointment. We got Gowther and Diane in okay, and we do have Bond and King up in perfection. Then we do have the two up in divinity. But that's all for today. So there you go. This is my definitive Seven Deadly Sins character tier list, and this is that guy with the pencil writing off.